Welcome back, guys, to the LCK 2019. That game one was certainly one for the history books, but also not necessarily the high-stakes matchup that you would expect for two of our bottom teams, I guess, after week one of spring 2019.
Honestly, if you wanted a word to really symbolize that game for me, it'd be desperate. It was a very desperation game because of week one. And yes, it was exciting at the end, but remember, it was slow for the first 25 minutes. So it's a sort of game that KT and Kingzone haven't been able to play because these young teams are coming in and forcing the envelope way before 25 minutes. So yes, very excited at the end. I'm happy to see some vintage deft moments, but I'm looking for either of these teams to step up their early game play. Yes, Kingzone had a good start, but they weren't actually able to transfer that good start until those huge teamfight moments kept them in the story.
Well, we'll see whether KT can utilize Zenit in order to get themselves to that victory. His Siva in his debut game here in the LCK did look pretty good, to be perfectly honest, up against Humwa Life, but was unable to follow that series through for a victory. After what was a good game one, they're trying to see whether they can utilize this new 80 carry, try and get things done alongside Snowflower. So Gengo didn't have a terrible game, but like you say, man, I just think it's all about trying to build momentum instead of stagnating the game in the mid-game. The mid-game is where I'm going to be looking for both of these teams to step up doing stuff. They just need to do more stuff.
But my curious question is, what will changing Gango out do? He had a huge CS lead. I think in teamfights, in the late-game teamfights as Lucian, he maybe struggled a bit more than he should have. Pawn got a really clutch poke out on him around that fight that Def took over. But I feel like he did the hard work in the early game really well, and I don't think that changes shot calling, right? I don't think neither Gango nor his replacement Zenit is going to be very involved in that. I'm surprised we've never seen Mia since the Kesper Cup. I understand Snowflower has the bigger reputation, but Mia and Gango looked really good as a duo in that tournament, so unsure what changes that will have on that side, and can't have Score making big mistakes on that squishy AP Gragas. You can't walk up and be caught. Yes, it's something that's quite easy to do the moment you hit the first stun, but he was in the wrong position to begin with.
Yeah, and that was the one pivotal play, but I think before that, I mean, it was Smeb getting caught out a couple of times that really did hurt KT's ability to push their lead further forward. That open nexus, two dead inhibitors stymied by the fact that the Sion was caught out of position trying to go for that flank. And yes, he did land a few good engages, but what you've got to do is make that repeatable and something that will be able to work out instead of being a liability, potentially.
So Smeb retains his spot, Score retains his spot, and all things change. For the side of KT Rolster, they're going to be moving to the red side to open up this game. Went for that team fight wombo that worked till it didn't when it came to the late game. We thought the outscale had started. If you paused the game for me at 35 minutes said who wins, I would have been 90-10 to KT, given the comp and the scenario they were in, and the fact that KT had two of the opponent's inhibitors down and no Nexus turrets, and yet Kingzone fight back. Let's see how Kingzone approaches game number two, because they'll want to recreate what was a very good first 10 to 15 minutes when it came to early game, the 5,000 gold lead they were able to generate.
Well, Cassiopeia going to be banned away here. Def currently 7-0 in the last week, and solo queue on that champion. She is busted, definitely the most broken champion so far, so she's going to be banned on the red side. The Victor to be going away as well, and another champion that Def has been playing a lot of. Kingzone going to be taking that one off the Rift. The Aatrox probably going to follow here on the side of KT if trends are going to be followed.
I'm interested in the trend on Rakan, Atlas, because Tucson is the legendary Rakan and Snowflower is the new big name Rakan. These are two of the biggest Rakan spammers in the LCK. Was banned by KT in game number one, first ban. Kingzone are happy to first pick it, so will KT try to get two power picks on the red side, or will the Rakan fall further than we might expect? Khan, one of those big win rate champions so far in LCK Spring 2019. Lucian going to be banned here, so respecting the ability for Kingzone to carry through bot lane.
And Rakan is going to be banned away, which means the Aatrox is left available. Akali as well, still on the table. The Galio was that ban that they decided to go for. It means that Aatrox Akali are the two differences here, as the Lucian is going to go and the Victor as well, as Rascal decides that he wants the Urgot, because the Aatrox win rate is not necessarily high when he does get through.
And the Urgot is the LCK Spring choice, given it now moves to, I believe, 12-2 so far in Spring. It has been the reliable side of the matchup, but like you say, the flex jungle pick in the Aatrox that can go anywhere on the top side here is something to respect. And we get the Akali probably for BDD, given recent trends.
Yeah, theoretically, score could be on the Aatrox, like you say, so certainly is still a flex around this top side. We're not going to be seeing Akali in the jungle, though, so at least we know that this will be in either of the solo lanes. Kingzone, what do they decide to lock in here? I'd like to see an Ezreal for Deft, but that is one of those things that I always like to see. Lissandra was banned away in the second round last game, and oh man, Pawn's going to do it. He's going to blind pick, well, theoretically, blind pick the LeBlanc. Man, that is a confidence move.
He doesn't know both solo lanes. Good chance we see Aatrox and Akali in the solo lane, but no guarantee on that one, given that the Aatrox jungle was a big thing in the Kesper Cup. But LeBlanc priority is way up ever since the last match day of last week with Lava popping off on the LeBlanc.
Lee Sin picked up a Cuz.
Lee Sin. Okay, cool. There's not going to be a competitive. It's not a contested pick in this series because Score moves away from that pick more often than not. Level 6 jungler for Lee Sin here. It's going to be probably a different jungle matchup. We're not expecting an Olaf versus Gragas style matchup here with one jungler feasting on the inaction in the early game of the other, and the Lissandra is taken, can match up very happily into the LeBlanc.
But is this the whole top side of the map sorted out, meaning that Score will be playing that Aatrox, or is this going to be some funny business that Snowflower's got planned for us with the Lissandra support that we've heard so many whispers of in the first week of the LCK? Only time will tell as we get through this draft, and the Ezreal going to be banned away. My hopes and dreams shattered in one ban.
Something I'm acutely aware of, and something that Tucson is acutely aware of, is this Lissandra support. That's a phenom in solo queue, but hasn't transitioned. We've seen the Ornn, but we haven't seen the Lissandra. Tucson playing a lot of it, so he will be experienced here. They're going to ban Tahm Kench anyway, because of the pick power that Kingzone have already put together here. Deleting one member is pretty reliable with LeBlanc, Lee Sin, and Urgot. So hedging bets on both sides, you would imagine. Double 80 carry ban at Deft, his famous pentakill on the Sivir being noted this time. So a lot of weapons have been blunted a little bit here. Deft not known as a Draven player, and so is Zenit. So Zenit not being Zenit in the roster instead of Gango means that a Draven ban is less likely to come out. We will actually see a Yasuo ban sent at KT, and the chance that we see some interesting flexes happening.
Yeah, theoretically the bottom lane could be where that Yasuo could go. Not sure what it's going to be paired with, as now KT have to give away a little bit more of what this composition is all about. 80 carry is something that I'm expecting, or at least something in the bottom lane. Zenit still taking some time to figure this out, only 5 seconds to go, but it will be the Kai'Sa at least considered and locked in for KT Rolster, and now Deft has so many options. The Kalista is there, a very famous pick for him, but also the Vayne that we haven't seen so much of.
Gauge supports, well, some of them are up, and Alistair going to be considered
all
right. We got the Jinx going, baby. We're going old school.
It's not your birthday yet, but Deft is still giving you the presents, Papa Smithy.
I tweeted out that Samsung Blue Deft picture, and suddenly we're EDG and Samsung Blue all over again. Jinx was undefeated in Korea for a long time for Deft. This is his most famous 80 carry, and it's a champion that can lane happily into Kai'Sa. Point I was trying to get to, Atlas, is that KT could do a couple of things. Continue the Lissandra flex, or give Zenit counterpick on 80 carry. They blind pick the Kai'Sa, the champion that so many different 80 carries can lane into. We don't get the Twitch this time, we get the Jinx, and that's the cost that KT incur.
And we'll see whether he can navigate these team fights as well as he did in the last game, especially the last couple that Deft was really able to move around with reckless abandon in, given the fact that he had so much protection with 6 items built up, no boots, thank you very much.
You get excited very, very hard for Aatrox to get near you, but Lissandra Akali is a pretty bold duo to lock Jinx in against. This either goes real good or real bad for the Jinx. So hard in the late game to hard carry. No Tahm Kench. Not going to be any tankiness behind that Jinx, but isn't it exciting to finally see the 29 return of Jinx from Deft?
Yep, it's real exciting. Does mean that he will have a huge target on his back, and Pawn might be able to navigate this game a little bit easier than he otherwise would be able to. We saw Lava have such a beautiful performance on the LeBlanc. Pawn has been a LeBlanc player for so many years through every iteration of this champion, and she's now back to the way he expected her to work out. Of course, like you say, 2015 was on the opposite side of the LeBlanc matchup. but has certainly come into his own on the champion in the past. And Smeb on the Akali is certainly an exciting change of pace for him, who's been mostly on Scion Urgot duty throughout this season.
But we still need to be reconvinced of his ability about that top lane carry, and the matchup against Urgot is mostly been seen to be a difficult one for the Akali, so no guarantees for Smeb, and the early laning phase not going to be the most happy. Kingzone Dragon X looking for a surprise 2-0 victory. They're already one game up.
KT fans in full voice, trying to give them the ability to come back in this series. It will need to be a reverse sweep, theoretically, which is something we talk about more in best of fives, but does theoretically work here in a best of three, especially when momentum is so important. If you're already 0-2 down, pulling your mental back up out of that is so difficult to do. KT Rolster now faced with that difficult task right now.
And history shows we have not had many three-game series. 10 played, only one game went the full three. That was a KT Rolster series against Hanwha Life, but they did win game number 1 of that series. So the losing streak is currently at 5 games in a row for KT. Kingzone found that first victory, and now, the Chinese New Year around the corner, we do have that firecracker Jinx coming out from Def.
Lunar Rebel is going to be at least represented on our Rift for now. My personal favorite skin as well, just because the rockets look so adorable with the explosions. Bottom side start here for Cuz, going to get a lot of help, but Score not going to. As it's the first time that I've seen him play the Aatrox from the jungle. See whether the old man has the mechanics to figure out this new champion.
It's a really quirky champion. Aatrox in lane obviously does his Riven thing, but in the jungle, having to kite the camps to get most damage means clear speeds can actually change quite a lot depending on how familiar you are with the positioning of the Q sweet spots. So we'll see if that actually has any big impact on the game. Once again, Cuz is being not just staying on his side. He's all about vertical jungling today. We'll be taking over the bot side jungle here for Kingzone. Does allow Jinx and Alistar to push up, and anything that helps them get a level 2 lead or a lane lead against the Kai'Sa and Morgana is going to be happy news for Deft and Tucson.
I think this is great. I feel like the VOD review from week 1, Kingzone just said to Cuz, they're like, you weren't aggressive enough in the early game. We need you to be more proactive and get things done. And that's what he's done so far in both of these games, at least with his jungle paths around this map.
And it would have been a very surprising level 2 gank because Lee Sin did fall off in terms of early ganking when the free level 3 became a free level 2 with the changes in experience last year.
A money ward, though, does give his position away, so Zenit and Snowflower knew exactly what was happening. We're able to play a little bit more defensively, but does give Alistar Jinx a free ability to get towards that level 2, which is always great news when the level 1 Alistar isn't exactly the best option.
Don't see so much Alistar recently because his lane is so weak against a lot of opposition, so there's kind of double scaling on the side of Kingzone. Actually, Kai'Sa struggles against some deft trades on the Jinx. Jinx does trade pretty well against Sivir and Kai'Sa and these mid-range carries. Q over the wall, but he'll notice not taken yet. Let's watch the smite.
Yeah, level 3 already there for Score and does get the smite. So going to have a lot of an advantage. The Smeb had already pushed up the top side of the map, meaning that Cuz no chance to chase after anything.
Jinx got that small buff on patch 9.1 when your zap scales with attack speed.
Yeah, it feels a whole lot better to use it as well as the rockets flying forward. Tucson sacrificed a lot of his health bar to keep defs very high. Gives him the ability to get a lot of damage onto both of these bottom lane members. Kingzone laning this one very, very well. Something that we would expect when it's Zenit Snowflower versus Deft and Tucson.
I do like that you speak about the buff because on paper it doesn't seem like the biggest 0.6 cast time to 0.4 scaling with attack speed, but I think that Jinx had the Caitlyn problem of why do I use my abilities.
Yeah, you just don't use it in a team fight at the end game, right?
Now you can fit it in more often, so it is more damage. And speaking of damage.
Yeah, BDD's trying to get out, does use the claw, and beautiful sidestep, but the chain is still going to be in there. One cheeky auto, not going to be enough to finish him off. They do get the, no, they don't get the flash, as BDD just utilizes his extra tankiness with the Aftershock and gets away.
Hits the Aftershock proc and sidesteps one of the abilities, means he's going to live scot-free, not even having to use flash. In that one, nice stuff from BDD. The Scuttle Crab seems quite confused. Can't tell if that's a visual bug or just some nice herding, because you can, of course, herd the Scuttle. Scores on a ward with his clear. Power farming away, but to no cost, as the gank in mid lane was not successful for Kingzone.
Yeah, now Kingzone with the push on the bottom side of the map. Lots of vision down here as well. You can see that Kingzone really want to protect Deft and TuSin in this early game. They don't want things to go wrong and have their Jinx be irrelevant. As Rascal shoving in Smeb, getting his own back here towards the top side, but it's Smeb with pretty gigantic lead when it comes to the farm, given the fact that Score's location on the top side of the map was given away early. Rascal had to play a little bit more defensively.
Deft himself continues to push, like you mentioned, with the jungle coverage. The gank in mid lane was to get the second spawn of the Scuttle on the bot side, so this is all engineered from the side of Kingzone to get Deft as good a lane as possible. And again, no surprise if you're a coach, you are expecting them to get as much an advantage of their bot lane as possible, purely based on the talent they have on the bot side of the rift.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually feel like this game is sort of an analyst's dream, because this is what you expect out of this series, right? So far, you've got the solo laners from KT winning out by about a 10 CS margin. Bottom side of the map is going to be Deft in control. So sort of how it's supposed to work, given the pedigree of the talent on both of these teams. Didn't necessarily work that way in our first game. Now, finally, things are going towards some normalcy. Score looking for this mid lane, but Pawn well and truly far back here in this one.
All about Pawn trying to hold the wave about in this spot. Wants to be in position for a jungle gank. Speaking of jungle ganks.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get the Mimic proc here as the chains do land. Q there as well from Cuz, but he's only level 4. Can't get any kickbacks. Scoring amongst it. You've got BDD thinking about heading back home. It's going to mean that he'll miss out on a few of these creeps because that teleport is still on cooldown.
No kill pressure there. The Aftershock armor was still armed as the Q was there, and of course an ally next to him. So no point to take the Q. Like you mentioned, going for the same build here on Urgot that we saw in game number 1 with the pretty late tier. I said not late tier, late cull.
Yep.
Trading so far good from Smeb. Boots 2 as a start as well. Does delay first item. His Cuz.
Yeah, Shroud now on cooldown as well as Smeb. Doesn't want to get hit by this, but he does. Level 5 is in, and the ultimate now on cooldown from Smeb.
Nice accuracy there on the max range 100 buff needed Q. Exactly. That's something to always talk about. Any confidence you can get when you're coming in as a 0-2 match score is going to be appreciated.
Well, Binding, I think, landed onto TuSin there, but not wanting to go for anything more, and the Supercharger is going to get Zenit out of the way of anything that could be a problem. Feels like they bring in Zenit if they want to have the hyper carry. I feel like, you know, he's played the Sivir, he's played the Kai'Sa now, and it's been more like Lucian. It's the flavor of the Draven coming in for Gango, and I do like having two different players with different play styles for different drafts that you want to be building up here if you've got a plan moving in before anything's even been picked yet.
And I think the champion pools actually don't overlap as much as 280 carries usually means.
Yeah,
the Draven player in Gango, he's also better on the awesome dudes, the off-meta champions, the mages, the Vladimirs, things like that. So, seems like Zenit more for the traditional marksman that we see a lot of teams prizing. For example, in the LPL, Kai'Sa super high priority compared to Korea, where it's been a bit more up and down.
But 17 CS is a huge lead here for Deft, who's got himself the BF sword, actually reaching the same mark as Zenit, as they both went back at similar times, both going for the heal as well. So no funny business with teleports. In fact, only one teleport on the side. Kingzone and Rascal's actually covered it up with an Ignite at this point. Looks like your solo queue game on the side of Kingzone right now.
Also looks like Kingzone versus KT in terms of lack of kills in the early game.
Yeah.
No kills. Was 2 kills for so much of that first game before we finally got some action. Big team fight won by KT.
There's a headbutt Pov, and Snowflower actually going to use the Black Shield on himself, mistakenly, exactly. That is bad news. Speaking of which, Smeb, he's been ignited. That auto, no, it hasn't. It's going to wear down, and that is going to be the Fear Beyond Death, taking him down there.
Matchup Orbs at level 6, and Smeb too far up the lane, and his ult, look at it, seconds away.
Not quite
from having enough dashes bot side.
Yep, ultimate going to come in here from Snowflower as Cuz is going to be here in just the right time. There it is. The ultimate comes in from Zenit, but it's not enough. TuSin held on to his Pulverizer. Now Zenit under the turret against 3. Score does have the World Ender. Nice flash over the headbutt as Deft should go down. They have to trade 80 carry for support on the bottom side of the map.
Well played by Score to flash the headbutt, but otherwise things not coming together. Top side will need a replay to understand why Smeb for a second game in a row was overextended in a 1v1 without even jungle attention to discuss. Nice plays from Kingzone. Cuz getting there first meant that Deft didn't just die at the start. Watch the replay of this play. The Smeb's full health takes a bit of Q poke. Let's watch how this develops. Shroud is used, so this is a very extended replay here. Steps out of the Shroud. He knows Shroud is on cooldown. Now Smeb's not able to extend the Shroud duration, so I think he just misplays the lane trade pretty pretty heavily here. It required a snipe, but this time Rascal doesn't miss his target.
Yep, nails it, and didn't have the flash available on the side of Smeb, so it was all too easy just to line that one up and take it down. Very happy coaching staff on the side of Kingzone. And you know Acorn's excited about a top lane outplay. As R2, some good headbutt here, but Killer Instinct is enough. But Cuz turns up, better position, good kick. And he's going to be the first kill to start this fight. But thankfully Score comes in and grabs that kill on Deft.
Yeah, well played. Flash over the headbutt, and then just chilling smite. Goodbye, Deft. That goes down here, but overall it's 2-for-1 kill trade, and that kill trade goes to the team that won game number 1 in Kingzone Dragon X.
Yep, turret plating also in favor of Kingzone here. Not sure how many on the bottom side have gone down. It's just one. That means 320 global gold to go over to Kingzone. And Pawn underneath this turret grabs himself a plating of his own. Now that the Rift Herald's been taken, means that Kingzone having a lead very akin to what they had in game number 1.
Saw a lot of Lissandra against LeBlanc at Worlds, you'll remember.
Yeah.
It's a matchup where kill pressure is low.
Well, Pawn, he's going to go in a little bit overly aggressively, but instantly cleanses the Frozen Tomb. Means that it will be a trade, not of summoner spells, but at least of buttons that they have available to them, and Pawn not going to go down.
Turret plate's still up as Rocket.
Yeah, Rocket not going to be enough to take down BDD, but stops his back. Still good, and shows that Deft has his iron.
And this is all in service of pressure, Atlas.
Rift Herald is going to come through and will get a charge here on this mid lane turret. That's a visual bug. Shelly is a little bit further away from that, and they do pick up so much of this. Only one of those charges left remaining, and Smeb does turn up to fight against Rascal. We all know how that goes, and we'll have to back away.
A chunk out on the enemy mid laner always means more than first appears. That's why they got the safe charge there and can use it very early just for purely gold. Smeb's Shroud is down again, remember?
Yep, he is able to run around in it, but Rascal doesn't actually get to utilize that shield very, very well, but the corrosive charge is in there. Can he find an ultimate yet again? The Disdain, not enough to get him away, but that is going to be another ultimate used defensively from Smeb.
I think Rascal's just playing this lane better than Smeb is in the Akali vs Urgot matchup mid lane.
Yeah, Score in trouble, going to get kicked back as Pawn trying to find the follow-up damage. World Ender is still available, and Score holds onto it for the moment. Snowflower getting his roam on as he heads up towards the mid lane, but the disengage is all too easy for these very slippery champions playing in the 2v2 in the Lee Sin and the LeBlanc. 2-level lead, soon to be a second turret plate. Look at the turret plate different. 1 in the top side, 3 in the mid lane, 2 in the bot lane. That is already 6 turret plates that have been picked up to 0 from the side of KT. That's a lot of the early gold lead. And a 35 CS lead for Deft as well, so it's absolutely ridiculous. The advantage that he got just from, like you say, getting that chunk out, getting that rocket into the mid lane as well to delay the back, actually gave him about 20 CS in advantage because Zenit had to move towards that mid lane to try and defend, and now Deft is just being an absolute jerk to this guy underneath his turret.
Do understand why they're giving more and more time to Kingen, because his solo rank performance, top 5 for the majority the last couple of weeks. The problem you're seeing here is, yes, bot side of the map for Kingzone is winning pretty hard, again, expected based on the nameplates, but we're not seeing the corresponding leads on the top side here. BDD's doing fine in a salvaging matchup as bot lane.
Yeah, ultimate comes in from Snowflower, but you can see Deft just trying to get the autos through. It's not going to be enough, however, as Tucson throws down the ultimate, and he's trying to do what he can to get the hell out of dodge. The minion's going to be enough to deter KT for going for the double. And Score has turned up to try and stop him from at least hanging around in this lane, but that's just straight up a mistake from Deft, an overly aggressive play.
And Zenit played super well, popped the damage, no real rocket damage coming through because of the timing on the Killer Instinct. He gets to push out the lane as well. KT needed that with all 3 lanes losing in the early game outside of the CS lead for Smeb.
Yeah, I think he actually wanted to jump over the rocket, but it was good enough to just have that shield available to him. Score dashing umbrally over this wall. No one taking a dragon just yet this game, as things are very even when it comes to the kills, and we're going to have a look at how that happened.
Yeah, I want to watch for the rocket interaction here. Let's watch it right at the end. So Deft too far up, but yeah, stable to basically immune the damage by coming in at the end there.
Yep.
Just good understanding of the scenario, even though we see very little Jinx at the highest level. Jinx goes down. Again, CS lead still there. 27-28, building CS lead in the bot lane. But if Akali and Lissandra delete Jinx at the start of fights, and there's not much peel for Kingzone to stop that. Also, peeling a Akali is a bit of a meme.
Yeah, good luck.
See how those things go, because Smeb's team fighting needs to be levels above the laning we're seeing on this Akali.
Yeah, the thing that I want to see is Pawn and Rascal really make up for the fact that Deft is going to have a target on his back. So the only way that Kingzone is going to comfortably win a fight like this is if Deft is getting the focus, trying to run the hell away, while Kingzone get free damage with their other carries elsewhere, because Deft is just going to have to be his elusive self on a lot of his champion picks and needs to play a little bit better than getting randomly bound in lane.
You really want your team to get a pick, shoot out the rocket. Doesn't even matter if it gets the kill. You want the movement speed to try to play through these fights and get reset after reset. On the get excited, if you enter the fight 50-50 against the enemy, that's, I agree, where things become very tricky to play. But previous game was pretty tricky to play, Atlas, and Deft showed us
he did.
He's still able to channel his hyper carry self. So many games I remember at 2014 Worlds where he had insane DPM.
Yeah, in trouble here as the Deceive comes through. Frozen Tomb cleansed once again as Cuz just trying to help him out. Holds on to the kick for the moment. No flash needed. On the side of Pawn, he'll go back to base. Luden's Echo completed. We'll see what he grabs afterwards. Is now Zenit fighting against this bottom lane once again. Doesn't find the Void Seeker. And the binding goes wide there as well, so that means that a moot point on the bottom side as far as that exchange.
No longer is there a map control advantage bot side that was generated by Cuz in the early game. And suddenly, late Black Shield onto Zenit, and he feels pretty damn strong to walk up and take aggressive trades, potential all-in trades against the Jinx. Cuz top side, shadowing here. And it's turret dive time.
Exactly. They want to try and find Smeb, who gets corrosively charged, gets kicked back there as well, and that's why Lee Sin is so good against the Akali, old or new.
Too clean, Atlas, and that will be first turret of the game in top side, you'll imagine. KT will try to answer with a Mountain Drake, but it means even more immediate gold, and once again, back-to-back Kingzone Dragon X finding a pretty big early gold lead, even if the kills don't necessarily register.
Well, got actually some damage onto the Dragon there as the price has to be paid. And the outer turret in the mid lane is what is going to go down, as well as the top lane outer, meaning close to 5,000 gold the lead with such a low kill game.
No displacement on this kick, but the damage does register. You watch the replay here. Just no ability. That's kick right at the end. Okay, finally got kick into the range. Okay, that interaction makes sense. They get the turret, but what I wanted to illustrate was the mid lane. I talked a bit about how we saw Lissandra versus LeBlanc. It's that matchup where LeBlanc can't burst the Lissandra.
No.
Aftershock proc, the self-ult, there's no kill pressure, but LeBlanc still has lane control because she has more reliable ranged harass, and all the chip damage eventually was relevant after that turret charge from the Rift Herald man. It was actually the ability to take down a turret largely solo at 17 minutes.
Yeah, now Pawn can't actually play as aggressively because doesn't have the cleanse for the Frozen Tomb, so BDD with a little bit more kill options, I guess, against the LeBlanc, which is why you see Pawn not actually hanging around in that lane for too long, uses the Mimic just to clear out the minion wave and pick up a blue buff. As Deft solo underneath this turret right now, but should be able to clear out these minions relatively easily.
Has wards for turret dive, and turret dive is the only real problem here. From Deft's side,
yep, this is exactly what you're talking about. The chip damage, like you say, is, oh man, if only the range was buffed a little bit more.
So, Kingzone Dragon X, 2 games in a row, you know, 5,000 gold lead in the early game, but caught in the transition from early to mid game, allowing KT back into game number 1, a game KT should have won.
Yes.
Kingzone, surprisingly, battle back in the clutch. Let's see how Kingzone wield their power a second game in a row, because they need to fix those transitions. One of the most standard things for teams coming into the LCK is getting caught around the 18 to 25 minute mark.
Yep. Tucson once again going to catch a binding, but like you say, I feel like a lot of this has to do with mid-game and how either of these teams are going to control it. KT's answer is put score on the bottom side of the map. Try and open this one up, give Zenit a little bit more of a lead, move their power elsewhere, and Deft is taking the bait. The Q held onto for so damn long, and actually I feel like Score missed his window just a little bit, but the mid lane was out of position. They didn't want to bite off more than they could chew. Score now in a little bit of no man's land as Tucson going to go back.
Really good read by Deft and Tucson, because look at the minimap. It's not like they see their cams or have an Ash Hawk shot to examine the path, and they also used the blue trinket on the second brush from Deft and did not find Score, and yet still being respectful. That is the sign of some veteran status in a bot lane that's dominated by rookies and returns to the LCK. Not many LCK games have experienced by really any bot lane outside of Sangyun and Key. So nicely done by Deft and Tucson to not die to Score.
Yeah, really nice heads-up play. And what have been some of our, I guess, things that we've said against Deft, and it's taking over-aggressive trades when you don't necessarily have full information.
Credit to where credit's due. I think that's 2017 Deft that deserved a lot of that criticism. I think 2018, he was a lot more defensive. To the benefit of KT, in the end, he ended up being that third carry on the team more often than not, but they won LCK Summer. They come in as reigning champions. They need to find a best-of-1 victory soon, though, Atlas. Otherwise, it feels like we're using the LCK champions ironically, which is not what KT roster want.
Definitely not. And now, Kingzone, with a deft of their own, seeing whether they can rebuild themselves. 6,000 gold is the lead.
That's a weird bounty.
424.
I didn't know you could have non-50 increment bounties.
Yeah, that's a weird one. That is a weird one, definitely. We'll confer with the referees about why the heck that is an extra 4 gold.
We don't have a caster pause button, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I would be pressing it otherwise.
But Def does still have a bounty because his CS, CS bounty is going to start coming up here.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want on a Jinx, right?
Don't know what to make of that one, guys. I'll leave someone else to be the brains trust on that one. Brains trust on KT is they would really like a Rage Blade onto Zenit. Already saw from the team comp side also some nice moves in lane, but they have great all-in options onto Deft. But right now the all-in's looking a bit toothless, so they're being a little bit more reserved into what is going to be, if game 1 is anything to judge by, probably a lot of inaction in this mid-game.
Yep, and hyper carry versus hyper carry is going to be the aim of the game when it comes to that late game as well. So 6,000 gold is a buffer. Oh, we made it. Okay, we jumped up. We jumped up that extra, what, 26 gold?
We need to exhale now. We feel much better. No longer do we have
the visual bugs. They're getting out of the game and into the scoreboard. Papa Smithy.
Rascal finds a binding as Kingzone. They're pushing up map control, but what is their objective at this point in the game is what we need to determine after their indecision around objectives cost them in game number 1. Seems like just Mountain Drake's setup. Is KT also going to try something here? Because right now the vision line is all Kingzone Dragon X.
Well, Deft has started off this Dragon, and now that we've got to 5v5 territory, it's when Deft needs to be so careful of where Smeb is on this map. They've got a lot of vision available to them, and they've got Pawn and Tucson alongside Rascal just making sure that this Dragon is as free as possible. Outer turret also not going to be taken down. The Baron has spawned, but now we're a mountain apiece. And this game feels way closer than the gold would otherwise indicate.
And that was like the perfect team fight for Deft because they had the bot lane pushing in, so he actually had a paddock to just disengage down if KT came from mid lane to contest. Recreating that in the late game, recreating that around a grouped up objective like the Baron or maybe a later Infernal Drake spawn will be very tricky. But that was the sort of fight with the vision advantage where KT had no options in spite of having a team comp that seems priced in to just assassinate Deft at every moment.
Exactly, and as Smeb was coming down for that theoretical flank towards the mid lane, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be the test where we finally see what KT's composition can do against the squishy hypercarry that doesn't have a lot of mobility. Just wasn't the case with better positioning that they had available to them and gave them a free Dragon. Rascal continuing to be frustrating here, but you can see the CS still fine. For Smeb was actually winning through most of the laning phase.
It's a 2-level lead, though, Atlas.
That is true.
2 levels, 13 CS. Remember, he was actually behind 20 CS with the map being split up in the early game. And we already know from Worlds when Keen tried to play this matchup that actually killing the Urgot in the side lane, even from a level 16 Akali 3-4 item, is pretty damn impossible. So pretty damn tanky as Score.
Yep, Zap going to come down. Does have himself the Black Shield, though, and now Tucson has to pop the ultimate.
TPs.
The kickback is going to come in, but Zenit immediately uses the Killer Instinct to get him out. Rascal now right in the middle of this fight as BDD wants to get on top of Tucson, decides not to take the claw as the rest of the fight is where they want to be fighting on. Zenit picks up the kill against Cuz, but is that going to be enough to turn the tides? I don't think so as BDD goes down and Deft is excited. It's a double kill for Pawn, and finally the mid laner of Kingzone wakes up.
When Deft gets excited, things come together, and Pawn, like you mentioned, makes that fight with a really good flank from the red pit. They're on to Baron here. They're going to try and force it, and there's nothing KT can do.
Yeah, Deft with this minigun. He's got a BF sword on top of those first 2 items there as well. This will just be taken out. Rascal will have the shield available to him, gets around the back of the pit, and that is all she wrote. 24 minutes, and Baron goes into the hands of Kingzone.
Maybe the LeBlanc meta's coming out of nowhere because Pawn jumps on it and finds relevance. Score walks up early, but when he turns on to Tucson, you think, okay, maybe this is a fight that KT can win. But remember that Rascal is 2-level lead and a frontline tank, and Akali is an assassin. You don't get excited.
Oh, it's the headbutt
from Aatrox taking a kneel, so Deft isn't into the fight just yet. First kill actually goes the way of KT roster, but fear beyond Death arms. Deft speeds up, and then everyone on KT is overextended to the Jinx.
Yep, and I feel like these are going to be some of the most snowbally team fights as well. Is Deft excited? The answer was yes. And you can see Cuz, he's pretty happy as well, even though he fell down.
That wasn't Deft's voice, but I'm sure somewhere he was smiling, as the alpaca is known to do. The noble alpaca's gone defensive. Hex Drinker as a third item here to respect Akali and Lissandra. Actually finding the flank. They push up. They've got the Baron. What's KT going to do? Snowfall ain't got no health.
Yeah, that rocket just ignoring the Black Shield completely. And that is going to be the Morgana going back home. None of that utility available as the split push is real. Pawn on the bottom side of the map. The rest of the team towards the mid lane. And Tucson just roaming around the jungle, making sure that there's no flanks possible. Kingzone in so much more control this game. 11,000 gold, the lead. 7 kills to 3 and a Baron buff, still circling for 2 minutes.
Rascals enters the fight, costs them in game number 1. It's winning them the game number 2. He walks up.
God.
We're doing the zoom out here. BDD from the backside. He wants Deft, but remember the Hex Drinker.
Yep, Claw's going to come in. Flash very early here from Deft as Smeb able to jump on top of him, but he just cannot withstand these auto attacks, and that one followed him so long. The Q from Pawn finishes him off, and now Deft gets excited once again. See you later, KT. Deft getting revenge against his old team, and Snowflower, the last one to be put on his mantle. Triple kill for Deft, and Kingzone will win the series 2-0.
A surprising 2-0 that heaps the scoring onto KT. Kingzone Dragon X going to take down their old enemies. In KT Rolster, they roam forward. Deft and Pawn are going to hold their heads high in this battle of KT Rolster. It's all about the new, but Deft brings it back with a vintage Jinx performance.
Yep, and the LeBlanc from Pawn looking vintage as well, and that is exactly the kind of Pawn that you want to see, because this guy was so good at these sort of assassins early in his career, but recently that is not what we've seen. And this was redemption largely for this man.
Redemption for Deft and Pawn, but once again with Smeb, laning phase 2 levels down on the Urgot. The final team fight, if we get a replay, he dashes in to try to piggyback off BDD's flank engage. His Shroud's in the wrong spot. He just dies to 3 crits because he can't actually remove himself from just free auto attacks from Deft with no threat on him. Kingzone with Acorn and the rest pick up their first victory of the season. These guys were looking like no-hopers as recently as the end of last week. But suddenly, they've got a match win, and KT does not.
Exactly. And we knew that one of these teams was going to walk away with their heads held high, but I wasn't expecting this kind of series. The game one, so incredibly close. Felt like KT should have taken it. And this game, too, felt like their hearts weren't in it quite as much as they were when they were trying to leave it all on the Rift in the first match. It's largely what happens when desperation, like you mentioned earlier on, plays such a key role, because now you've got a 1-2 scoreline that feels so much better than 0-3 in week 2.
It's not that KT looks rattled, and I think it'll be understandable to be rattled after losing such a close game with all the deck stacked in your advantage in game number 1, but they do roll over in the end. It's just 2 team fights where the execution isn't right from the side of KT, and no mistake from Kingzone. Like we mentioned, Rascals flank around Raptors, 3 members go down. KT finds a way back into game number 1. This time, Rascal teleports in as an ultra tanky Urgot. They get the first kill, they take it over. Much higher level of performance from Rascal, and a pretty decent one from Cuz, and that's around Deft and Tucson being reliable on the bot side. Things coming together in a way we might not have expected from the side of Kingzone.
Yeah, back-to-back much better performances from Rascal in comparison to what we've seen from him in the past. Laning against Smeb, I mean, I know Smeb didn't exactly have his best series ever today, but you can't really take too much away from Rascal, who played pretty brilliantly. And getting that solo kill against Smeb is still something that he can certainly hang his hat on. So, really good look from Kingzone, but he needs to show us this kind of They need to show us this kind of performance against the top-tier talent coming through from Challengers last year, and of course, Griffin and SKT.
Our worry coming through from week 1 was, can KT's top side, when they get ahead, snowball games out like they could on paper? The answer was not really overbalanced. And then the same thing with Kingzone Dragon X was, can the bot lane's obvious strength be enough? In week 1, we would have said no. What we do focus on here is that the top side of the map performs above expectation, and Kingzone's bot lane performs to expectation, and together, that is enough for a match victory. So suddenly, we have something in the good column for Kingzone Dragon X. Unfortunately, very little to add to the good column for the side of KT, because they tried BDD on a hard carry. They couldn't actually perform as a team in the late game team fights. He's on the facilitator this time. Smeb's on more of the hard carry. That doesn't work either. What works for KT? Who should the starting 5-man roster be? We only have questions for KT, no answers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're going to check out the highlights from this match as well, guys. This was Smeb biting off more than he can chew. There's a shroud there, but you can't quite see it.
And then it's down. And if you've played any Akali and solo queue, you know you have to be intelligent about shroud timing, an overpowered ability, but when it's on cooldown, you are ultra squishy. That was the first mistake after a decent CS lead for Smeb in the early trading. And then from here, this was probably the only other good moment for KT Rolster when they flew in and were able to take down Def. So that was the second time. They did take him out eventually, this time through Score, jumping in over that headbutt. But from here, there were really only 2 pivotal team fights played in the game, and we should be able to see both of them. Zooming in on the turret dives, Smeb's squishy, so we'll go down. This confirms the 2-level lead that extends for the majority of the rest of the game. And then he's tanky and Smeb can't find the flanks, so Kingzone Dragon X perform in the team fights more often than not.
Yeah, and that was actually a huge swing when it came to the global gold as well, as we're going to have a look finally at one of the team fights here in this game. And some of the positioning here from the Kingzone players, you can see Deft so far away, gets the rocket to make sure that the World Ender is not able to be utilized from Score, and everyone's playing defensively, and the Jinx wanders in, takes everyone down.
And Smeb getting headbutt, and then he has to use the Shroud defensively without zoning, because remember, in a team fight, it should be Akali R1 onto the enemy Jinx, put down the Shroud, and then Jinx has to flash defensively just to get out of the Shroud. The Shroud positioning can never be on point. Watch this fight. This is the one I'm talking about. Pawn comes from the side, great positioning. Means that there's just no value from Smeb at all. Then you fight front to back with Jinx, and if you can do that against KT's comp, you win.
Yep, and Deft waited out all of the buttons, used all of his defensive skills extremely early to give himself good positioning, something Deft has always been known for. Then goes and picks up a triple kill because they couldn't get on top of him despite the divers that they'd put together on the side of KT Rolster. I thought this was going to be one of the most difficult games to play Jinx in ever. But the way he navigated the only 2 real team fights that we saw in that game were actually beautiful, but largely, I think, to do with some mishaps on the side of KT Rolster.
And you know what the good news is for Kingzone in game number 2? The only hard thing is it Pawn, Rascal, or Cuz that you pick up the MVP here? I think one of the solo laners are most likely to take it.
I think Pawn deserves it.
I think Pawn had a really good game, and he has been really under the microscope for not, once again, being able to translate improved 2018 solo queue performance to his next chance to try to return to those legacy days of 2014. We'll get that confirmation soon, and an interview with Kingzone, MVPs. It's confusing.
It is hard because, I mean,
have done the merry-go-round.
Yeah, there's 50% KT Rolster, sort of, 40% on the side of Kingzone now, so you have to bear with us a little bit. Lots of damage coming in from Jinx, but Papa, you just indicated to me not very much damage coming out from Score whatsoever. The Aatrox was basically non-existent.
Wonder if Umti will be starting in KT's second and final best of 3 of the week. Kingzone, deserved winners. No more are there the heart palpitations. This one was going straight up for Kingzone Dragon X as they are finally able to arrest their 2-match losing streak. Again, quirk of the system, only 0-2 versus 0-2 and 2-0-2-0 to start out the week. We can start to get to do power rankings. KT Rolster.
Exactly, and if they lose another one, it could be a 0-4, and it might be a Kingzone sitting at 2-2. They have an opportunity to right some wrongs here this week and really make sure that their opposition on the bottom half of the standings are also pushed further down as well. I feel like there will be a lot of shaking up here.
And Rascal will pick up the MVP.
Deserved.
404, no Pawn MVP found. It's going to be Rascal this time out. And Atlas, remember, we had 4 teams equal first place in summer at 13-5 match score. If you want to be glass half full, you say KT, they're still getting all their kinks out. They're still trying to work out their new roster for 2019. You're 0-4 by the end of this week. That means you can only lose 1 match to be able to reach the tally that you did at the end of 2018 summer. So there's not a lot of time, Atlas. Even though it's only 6 match days into LCK spring, 3 match losses is not what KT would have predicted. Congratulations to Rascal. Be good to hear from him because I think he'll have some questions about his previous form and how he stepped up today to answer, given that Rascal, Kesper Cup, first 2 matches looked pretty weak.
Yeah.
Today, much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be interesting to hear from a Kingzone that has transformed so much. So we are going to go straight to that MVP interview. So take it away, Jisoo.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Jason with your interview translation, and we're going to join by Deft and Rascal from Kingzone Dragon X. It was a hard split for you guys. Congratulations on your first victory at the split.
기쁘고요.
I'm really happy that we won.
여태까지 좀 패배할 때마다 좀 저희
During the
팀의
loss,
뭔가
I felt like our team should figure out what we were good at, and it was hard to show our friends what we were good at, so I felt really bad. But today, I'm really happy that we picked up the first victory. Especially, one of the match points was that you were facing against your original team. How did you prepare for today?
KT가 상대여서라기보다는 일단
Well, it's not that because it was facing KT.
10팀 중에 10등이어서
We were about to get to the 10th rank in LCK if we lose today, so I was preparing really hard. And Raskal, your Urgot was really aggressive and on point. You got all votes for MVP. How do you feel?
그냥 이겨서 너무 좋고요.
Well, I'm just happy that we won.
저희 팀이 다 잘해줬는데
I think all the players deserve
주신 것 같아요.
the MVP points.
감사합니다.
네, 감사하다는 말씀 전해주신
Thank you very much.
선수였습니다. 일단 첫 번째 경기 얘기
And
먼저
let's move on to game one.
데프트 선수 애쉬를 픽했는데
You locked in
매날리기를
Ash,
활용해서
and
시야 장악
You
능력이
were
굉장히
very
돋보였어요.
proactive using your skill to
팀
control the
어떤가요?
vision.
이렇게
Tell us more about the
팀
Ash pick.
픽이라고 생각을 했는지.
일단 상대 루시안 상대로 뭐 한타 구도나 라인전
Well, it's a really good champion
랑카
against
제가 더
Lucian.
조금 더 영향력을 끼칠 수 있다고 생각이 들어서
Especially in
픽하게
team
됐던
fights
것
and also in the laning phase, I'm
초반에
able to
상당히
put more
유리하게
influence
가져가다가
throughout the game.
뒤에 한타에서 뒤집힐 뻔했던 상황이
But game was really
있었습니다.
close, you
어땠나요?
know.
야쏘의 장막이 많이
And
거슬렸을
also,
것
I think
같거든요.
Winwall was really agonizing to deal with as an AD
상대팀
carry.
조합이 좀 야소를 이제 끼고
And
장막이
I think
있을
the
때 저희
opponents
이제
were
미드
playing
원딜
against Yasuo,
캠프들이 장막에
and
아예
for
딜을 할 수가 없는
me and also the mid
상태여서
laner, it was really hard to
게임
deal
안에
with the
가면서
wind
조금씩
wall.
피드백하다 보니까
So we were having a
나중에는
lot
좀
of
더
feedback during the
한타
game.
구도가 좋아졌던
And
것
in the
같아요.
late game, I
그래서
think we were able to
이길
fight
수
better in the
있었던
team
것
fights.
네, 아주 멋진 장면 많이 나왔습니다. 라스칼 선수는
And
그때
Raskal,
KT가 집 앞까지 치고
How did you feel
들어왔었는데
when KT was
좀
so close
불안했나요?
to
이걸 뒤집을 수
break the
있다는
nexus?
자신감이 있으셨나요?
그때 저희 팀들은 다음 경기
All of our
준비하고 있었었는데
teammates were preparing for the
운
next
좋게
game,
막아서
but we were really lucky
다행인
to
것 같아요.
defend our
실제로
nexus,
그런 얘기를
defend our
나누셨었어요?
nexus.
네.
네, 제가 조금 천천히 죽어서
Well, I died really late in game,
남았더라고요. 시간이.
so I had a lot of
그래서
death counter going on. So I thought it was impossible to stop them.
뭐가 잘못됐을까 생각하고
I was
있었는데
thinking over my mistakes and stuff, but they told me we stopped them from taking the nexus, so we were really happy.
포기할 뻔했지만 어쨌든 좋은 장면
I guess it was too early to give up, right?
자, 두 번째 경기.
Then let's move on to game two. LeBlanc and Jinx
자신감에서 나온
popped up.
픽인가요?
Were you really confident with your Jinx pick?
제 연습은 따로 하지 않았는데 언제든지
Well, I didn't
상황만
especially
갖춰지면은
practice Jinx a lot, but
자신 있는 픽이어서
it's
제가
one of my picks that I'm really confident with, and I can always pull off when the situation comes. So I told them that I'm really super confident for today's second game, and the coaching staff let me play it.
자, 라스칼 선수 첫 번째 두 경기 모두
Raskal,
솔로킬을
you
달성하셨어요.
solo killed both in game 1 and game
첫 번째
2.
판은 안 땄을
No, not really. Just game 1. No, just game 2. I'm confused.
못 땄던 것 같은데.
네, 자, 스맵
Then
선수를
let's check out this
솔로킬하는
highlight.
장면이 있었는데
This is the
이때
solo kill that I
두 번째
mentioned.
경기는 아트록스가 밑에서 올라오는 게 빠르게 보였습니다.
네.
Well, we
근데
could
어떻게
see
솔로킬
Aatrox
각을
coming up
그렇게 보실 수
for
있었나요?
backup, but how were you able to pull that up?
그냥 아트 위치 잘 보이고 있어서
Well, I had
그냥 거기
flash,
계산하면서
and I could see where Aatrox was,
네,
so...
아칼리 궁도 없어서 그냥
And I knew
킬러
Akali
잘
doesn't
봤던
have
것
her
같아요.
ult, so
계산을
I was
잘
able
하고
to pull that
들어간
off.
것 같은데요.
네.
우르고시 지금 8전 전승 탑에서 100%
Urgot
승리를
has
자랑하는
100% win rate at top
평소에
lane.
우르고 좋아하시나요? 어떻게
Do you
평가하시나요?
prefer playing it?
그냥 좋은 챔피언인데
Well, it's a really
재밌지는
good
않은 것
champion,
같아요.
but it's not that fun to play.
이기면 재밌는 거 아닌가요?
Isn't it fun if you win?
이겨도 너무 많이 이기면은 아니
Well, if you win too
그냥
much, it's
이겨도
not really that
가끔 재미없을
entertaining.
때가 있어요, 우르고시. 근데 진짜 좋은 챔피언인
But it is indeed a really
챔피언은 맞는
good
것 같아요.
champion right now.
네, 혹시 다음 경기에서도 우르고를 픽할
Are
생각이
you
있는지
planning to
비밀이겠죠?
play Urgot
아,
in the upcoming
네,
series?
비밀이에요.
네,
It's a secret.
알겠습니다. 네, 자 새로 들어온 팀원들과의 호흡이 궁금합니다.
And I
어떻게
wonder
잘 친하게
how the
지내시고
teamwork is going
많이
on in
아는
the new
편이세요?
team.
근데 저는 그냥 이제 게임적인 걸 떠나서
Well, besides in-game
형들이랑
plays,
다
all the other
재밌게 놀고
teammates,
있어요.
we're having really good,
잘
great
때마다
time together.
농담도 하면서
We're making a lot of jokes before
서로
going
코고는
into
척하면서
bed, and
노는
we're
게
pretending that we're
재밌더라고요.
snoring.
코 고는 척을 하면서
You guys
서로의 잠을 방해하는
pretend snoring?
혁규 형이 코 고는 척을 진짜 못하더라고요.
Def is really bad at it.
할 때마다 그냥 웃음밖에 안 났어요.
So he makes me
네,
laugh all the
알겠습니다.
time.
자, 다음 경기가 26일 아프리카와의 대결이에요.
next
그날
opponent will be
제가 확인을
Africa.
해보니까 폰 선수의 생일이더라고요.
And it's Pawn's birthday as
계셨나요?
well.
아니요, 전혀 몰랐어요.
We never know.
네, 그날 혹시 폰 선수에게 승리라는 선물을 안겨주셨으면
Would you like to give him a
좋겠는데
present called
각오 한
victory
말씀
to Pawn?
부탁드립니다.
네, 영상 편지 같은 건가요?
Should I send him a message?
네, 승리에 대한 각오 한
네.
말씀. 네.
이제 저희 팀이 이제 오늘
So
승리를
our
해서
team, we
좀
got the first victory of the
좋은
split.
분위기를
We were able to stop the
이제
bad
없앴다고 생각하고
mood going
저희
on.
팀이 이제 연습 과정에서는
And during the
이렇게
practice,
아무것도 못하고 막
we were
질
actually
정도로
performing quite
무기력하지
well.
않았는데 좀 긴장을 많이 해서
I think
그런지
we got too nervous on
오늘은
stage, but today
연습
I
때만큼은
think we
나온 것
performed as
같아서
well
다음 경기
as we did during the practice games. So I'm gonna make sure to prepare hard to take down our upcoming series as well.
네, 이제 아프리카전 오늘 이기고 아프리카전 남았는데
And our
이제
next opponent will be
원석이
Africa,
형이 그날 생일이잖아요.
and it's
근데
Pawn's
이제
birthday.
생일은 축하 받는 것보다 이제 생일인 사람이 이제
But, you know,
100%도 되거든요. 그래서 그날은 원석이 형이
Also, the
꼭
one who
캐리해줬으면
is
좋겠어요.
having a birthday should carry the game.
폰
So I think he can.
선수의
I hope he can
캐리를
perform really
바라면서
well
다음
on our
경기도
upcoming
기대해
series.
보도록 하겠습니다. 또 이 자리에서 킹존 선수들의 웃는 모습
So I
만날
hope
수
to see you guys
있었으면
on the interview
좋겠습니다.
stage
오늘
next
인터뷰
time, and this will be the end of the
감사드립니다.
interview with Deft and Raskol
네.
from Kingzone Dragon X.
첫 번째
And I'm
경기는
gonna pass it back to our
이렇게
casters.
킹존
Thank
선수들이
you.
가져갔습니다.
Thank you very much,
다음
Ji-sun.
경기도 승리로
Fantastic to hear
이어질까요? 자,
from
두 번째
these
경기
two,
저희
as
잠시
Rascal and
쉬고
Deft
돌아올게요.
really did play absolutely fantastically, and it's so good to see a Kingzone that we wanted in spring. What's spring without Kingzone winning, Papa Smithy? Starting to forget that thankfully now things are coming back.
It's a fair question, and Saturday's going to be an auspicious day. It is Kingzone versus Afrika. Could potentially be a big match for both, given that Afrika are also looking on the rebound. It's also Pawn's birthday.
And it's your birthday.
It's true. I am 10 years to the day older than Pawn. Confirmed really old, it turns out.
Oh, you didn't need to give us that information,
It's
Papa.
Pawn's 21st. 22nd,
Oh, wow.
actually. 22nd, because I'm 32. But,
well,
probably
in
watching
Korea,
that
it's
one on
actually a
the
little bit more
sidelines.
than that, isn't it? So it's he'll be 23 Korean age.
hopefully we'll have LS
Holy.
out here and me
Yeah.
celebrating at home is the plan for that day.
Oh no, not at home. No,
No? Not at home?
No.
What do you know,
We got
Alice?
dinner. We got all sorts of stuff that
Ooh.
we've got to do. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us. We're going to wait about 1 hour, so go and watch some LPL. We've got WE versus Suning Gaming, and we'll see you at 8 o'clock.